This program is brought to you in part by a grant from the Winthrop Rockefeller Foundation, making a difference in Arkansas.
I'm talking about the originator of Helltown. How Helena became, we call Helena Helltown. And it goes just like this here. Take my word for it, this is exactly how it is. Heltown. It's the new name and true name of the city you're in. Without a doubt, this part of the South has my label that's Helltown. I'm not telling a lie. Helena has fell down because of what? First of all, lack of occupation. Second, on the record, no proper recreation center for the teens to enter. And third is word that need a better educational system so wisdom can show them escortation. For Helena's improvement, that's the medication.
Helltown, 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 yo, Helltown, yo, Helltown, Helltown.
We ready for war, bringing them dangerous toys. Helltown soldiers, like I told you, watch how quick I would fold you. 4-5 Glock on the scene, trip the infrared beam. Smith & Wesson study stressing, teach a brother a lesson. Lethal weapon in the yard, hand to hand come back. It's a fact that we leave your haters flat on your back. Fire and brimstone, what we breathe in these Helltown streets. Wickedness and poverty, I make my enemies bleed. No remorse, no surrender, no retreat at all. It's the law deep down in Arkansas. I say we raw, I say we slaw, and when we coming through your town, it's a pack of wild hogs, and we in
Helltown, 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 yo, Helltown, Helltown, Helltown.
On the western bank of the Mississippi River, in the heartland of the Arkansas Delta, lies Phillips County and its consolidated twin cities of Helena, West Helena. Like many rural communities in America, Phillips County is afflicted by a diminishing economy and devastating poverty. Yet, in the midst of decline, major efforts of revitalization are generating hope that this town can be saved and restored to the glory days that many people still remember.
I had a great upbringing in Helena. I tell people all the time that for my upbringing, I think it was the best upbringing anybody could ever have.
We had wonderful, wonderful times with all the parties and dances, the parades, a lot of social activities. Had a lot of good people here, a lot of fun, always something going on.
Stores were open all up and down the street. On Saturday nights, you couldn't find a parking place out here, and you could hardly walk down the street for all the people.
We had our own communities, and in our communities we had everything we needed. We had grocery stores, we had service stations, we had taxi cabs, we had laundry and dry cleaners, we had businesses.
When I was growing up, almost everybody's father had a job, you know, and a lot of mothers had a job.
We had a chemical plant on the river that had quite a few, 200 to 300 jobs. We had a pretty vibrant middle class at that time.
We had the river available for shipping, we had rail, we had highways.
We had gins all over the county. I mean, every little crossroad had a cotton gin.
When I was a child, farming was the going thing. You know, you could see people picking cotton and chopping cotton, all that.
The soil between the Mississippi River and the White River in eastern Arkansas are some of the best in the country.
It was a wonderful town, a wonderful community, and I thought produced an awful lot of great people.
I think probably if you had to put your finger on when things started going down, I don't think anybody would disagree that it started going down when Mohawk went out.
What was Arclaw Chemical eventually sold a couple of times. They closed it down. The granary sold, they closed it down. Helena Cotton Oil Mill is no longer here, neither is Helena Compress. So we went from a base of approximately 4,000 jobs, probably we had 1,400 today.
So we've lost, you know, those major industries who employed young, working family people.
Everywhere you look, there were for sale signs throughout the community.
And it was pretty quick. I mean, it wasn't something that happened gradually. It's not like we looked up one day and the town changed. It's as if we saw it happening right before our eyes.
Between welfare and Social Security checks and SSI checks, that was the predominant income of the whole county. That was when I realized that we were dying.
Farms started consolidating, they became larger and larger.
Years ago, the fields would just be full, and you can just drive down the highway and just see people everywhere in fields. You don't see that anymore.
After Walmart took over, we had probably 4 hardware stores on the street. And one by one they went until we were down to 1. And the same kind of thing happened with the men's stores. One by one they went.
I think we went through one period where, I mean, just store after store after store started closing. And then we went through a period where family after family after family started moving.
Going to college and getting out of here, I said I'd never ever come back. And I just kind of looked around and went, I do not want to raise children here. I do not want to get married here. Why on earth would I want to be here?
One day I was driving into town through West Helena, coming down towards Cherry Street. The initial emotional impression was one of sadness, because what I saw was a grand old city that had lost its grandeur, but you can still see the remnants of it. And so that's when I started to experience the hope of maybe it's not gone yet, and maybe we can do something about it. I was thinking about the $100 million a year that Southern puts into this economy through our banking organization. And I said to myself, is Helena better off now than it was last year with all that monetary investment? And the answer was no. Money is not all that's needed, and we need these other things like education and healthcare and housing. We started a conversation with the Walton Foundation, and they had come up with the same idea. And what they wanted to do was to bring to bear all their resources and all of our resources into one spot and say, by God, we're going to fix this area and we're going to make a difference in this community. Our core process was to figure out how to allow the community, the citizens that live here, to actually take ownership of a community development process. And so we went to work and formed a steering committee that's made up of 40 to 50 local residents, and those folks have spent the last year putting together a strategic plan for this city.
Those committees had blacks, had whites, had women, had men. It bridged age and gender and racial kinds of divisions.
The talk and the planning part is over. We're moving into the implementation, action-oriented part of the program. And let's face it, we all like action. This county has a history of entrepreneurialism. We need to create an environment to grow homespun businesses.
I think that that's one of the answers, actually, is to stimulate small business, to unlock the spirit that we all have to support ourselves and do things. Because I doubt you're going to get a major industry to come into Phillips County.
We want to have economic development, but I don't think economic development comes until community development comes. Essentially what we want to do is help this community help itself.
I was a shift supervisor at a casino in Biloxi, and I'd done it for about 20 years, and I'm just basically tired of it. My brothers got the idea for the mini ball. They all wanted to do something, you know, out here and you know, make a bunch of businesses. They built a little restaurant, and they called me and says, you know, will you come? I said, will you build it? I'll come, you know. So here I am. We come, they put the building up, we come, and we did the whole inside. Basically, we pretty much got our own little community coming in right in here, you know. We have a bail bondsman, lawyer, pizza place. We have a barbecue place, a auto mechanic shop, a front-end alignment shop coming in. I see people remodeling places and fixing up stuff, and I believe there's going to be a lot of growth coming to this county. We all reaching, you know, to try to improve ourselves and improve the community, and it's basically hope, you know, hope for the future, you know, a better life.
I used to do all the cooking and so forth, and when I take her lunch, everybody else wanted to eat. I started thinking, I said, well, wow, everybody liked the cooking, so I guess we need to be in the cooking business.
That's right.
And so we was riding through Mariana one time, we saw a little concession stand. I said, well, you know, that's the right thing to start off with right there. So we bought a little small concession stand. And we were just noticing this open piece of land. Every time we passed through here, we would say, well, we wonder who that belongs to. They don't never do anything to it. They don't clean it up. So we decided to kind of check up on this. And we went down to the courthouse one day.
Sure did.
And checked on this place. And they said, well, wow, we've been trying to find out who that belonged to ourselves. So we asked another few more people around the community. And they said, well, you might want to try Hyde Malone Company. Called him up and asked him could we have few minutes of his time, and so he granted it to us, and we drove to Memphis one day and asked him, showed him what we had, and he said, well, wow, it's been 30 years ago. And so he said, well, what y'all gonna do with it? I said, well, there's so many kids around here that had nothing to do. And so we even had started tutoring them in the evening time and so forth because you know, they were just lost, you know. And I said, we would like to make a playground and maybe do our little business there. He said, well, I'm never going to come back to Phillips County.
That's
He
what he
said, I'm going to give y'all that piece of property.
And I just almost shouted right in the office. And then we found out that the JPs had $10,000 that they used towards playgrounds, any kind of recreation. We kept going to meeting after meeting, and then they decided not to even give us the money. After all the work we had done, we started raising money ourselves after we didn't get the $10,000. And we raised it, and through another company, Modern Woodman, they matched our money, and we did all the work, the fence and everything our own self. And that's how we came upon the playground.
Because if they wouldn't have said they was going to give us nothing, probably none of this would even be
Exactly, because it gave us a drive. After we didn't get the money, I said, I got to prove them people wrong. We want to just show them that we meant what we were saying. By us having a business here, kids come, we're here to see it. That's different from all other parks.
We've had a great life here, and I hope to keep on.
Me too.
Everybody assumed that I would be a farmer or that I would work at this business, and that's all I would ever do with my life. And it was like a set, beaten path, and I was bound and determined that I was going to do something else. Got a job with a firm in Atlanta representing homeowners associations, and went to work there for about a year. And I was like chapter 3 in the Grisham novel. I woke up every day and just wanted to stab somebody to death. I mean, I was miserable. And realized that I missed Helena. I can go home and I can be around all those people I grew up with that I just kind of started to miss, you know, insanely. And you know, it's kind of that weird feeling. It's that, you know, I missed home. When we got through with harvest last fall, I came to my granddad and said, I think I'd like to go to work here at the terminal. He said, okay, do you know anything about biodiesel? And I said, no, but you know, it's kind of been on my mind too. It's not a bad idea, I think, with what we already have. If we're going to keep this place going, we need a source of income, or, you know, not just our source of income is going to go, but everybody that works for us' source of income is going to go. I really hope it's a good project. I really hope it helps out the community. I think it's going to be a positive and a win. But on the other hand, hey, I'm in it for myself. I want to make money. I think those two come together in me in a real good way because I'm a citizen here. I'm a lifelong resident, and I've made a conscious decision, you know, in the face of a lot of different options, to move back home and to pursue this. Everything my family has is tied up in this biodiesel project. I mean, that's kind of laying it out on the table. If it goes south, we're lost. I mean, we're really kind of rolling the dice here. We wanted to pay off for us, but we also wanted to pay off for all those people that have worked for us for 20 years, that are like my family, and all those people that I've grown up with that have chosen to come back. Do I think that I'm going to save the town? Well, no, that's ridiculous, but you know, maybe I can help my little piece of it.
Economic development starts with community development, and to start really effective community development, you have to have something that bridges that gap, and I see that as being tourism. Tourists come into town and they spend money, but they don't worry about your education system, and they don't need to buy houses. You know, they come and go. They can be that bridge in between where we are now and where we hope to be.
African American tourism is the base here for a future that's true to our past. This was a Union city during the Civil War. The Quaker school that was here, as history is all but forgotten, it was run by African American leaders. Great history here.
Let us die and keep it free. Welcome is marching on.
Phillips County, in particular Helena, West Helena, is a beautiful city with lots of antebellum architecture and Old South culture that could be tapped into that would be appealing. The downtown area is historic on the National Register and also has potential to draw in tourism.
If you look at Cherry Street, you see the old beautiful buildings that have kind of fallen into decay, but that can be fixed. Envision antique stores and pubs and blues music halls on the ground floor of Cherry Street.
I've seen, you know, people just actually cry in here because they were like on holy ground. I mean, I had a guy from Holland tell me, he said, you know what they call Helena, Arkansas and Holland? I said, no, sir, I don't. He said, they call it the Blues Holy Land. Now, I've never heard that. I've had people come and go wash their hands in the Mississippi River, just like you wash your hands in the Jordan River. Now, you think that's pretty powerful now. You know, Conway Twitty was from here. He was Harold Jenkins. And you know, back in those days, before they ever became popular, Carl Perkins, Roy Orbison, Jerry Lee Lewis, Elvis Presley, Johnny Cash, they all played here in town.
There are signs, but then there are also the counter signs. You know, I would not be the person that would say everything's going to be great for Phillips County for the next 10, 15 years. I wouldn't say that. I would hope that, but I wouldn't say that.
We're only kidding ourselves if we think without racial equality we can have economic development here for real.
Racial equality was a long time coming to Phillips County. The racial hierarchy founded on slavery before the Civil War was rebuilt on racial segregation after the war. Blacks worked the land, whites owned it and all the wealth it produced. In 1919, when whites discovered that black farmers were organizing to sue them for their long unpaid share of the crop, They unleashed a reign of terror on the black community.
I had 4 great uncles who were killed, who were murdered down in Elaine, Arkansas in 1919. They were down on a hunting trip, but an angry white mob came and killed them. They were all professional men. My great uncle, who was married to my aunt, was Dr. D.A. Johnston, and he was from Chicago, had gone to medical school in Chicago, was practicing and had a good practice here in Helena. My father, when I talked to him about it, when I talked to my Aunt Doris about it, they really don't want to talk about the Elaine riots and the things that happened. My family that got killed were their direct uncles, but they never want to discuss it.
Colored people had more fear than they got now. A lot of things that they were scared, they were afraid to talk about.
Nobody knows how many blacks were killed in the Elaine riot. Some said it was over 100. Others said less. But no matter how many had lost their lives, white supremacy had triumphed. There would be no challenge to the racial hierarchy in Phillips County for the next 40 years.
Mama always said to me, remember, you're black. You're black. And like Mississippi, niggers have to stay in their places.
Of all of the hurts that I've ever had in my life, loss of my grandparents, Will and Ella Willis, loss of my dear beloved daughter, Michelle Wilson, nothing stings, cuts like the cut of racism. It can drive you mad. While these other losses would drive you to sadness, the cut of racism can drive you mad.
African Americans were under a whole lot of oppression, and people were afraid to do things, and people didn't have money and funds to do things.
What you see today is not what it was like in the 1950s. There's a railroad track right before you get to the City Hall area. Wasn't no black people over there, this side of town. This was called the Black Town, and that was White Town.
We had movie theaters, and of course they were black and white movie theaters. I experienced that time, you know, when we even had black and white water fountains.
It was impossible for you to have a black mayor, the black chief of police. That was just impossible. Wasn't nobody gonna vote for him. And really, they didn't even let them get their name on the poll.
My daddy would say, somebody gonna teach you how to vote. Say, it's your time now. My time is not here, it's gone. Say, but learn how to vote. Say, if you don't do nothing but learn how to put that X in the right place, vote.
The civil rights movement arrived in Phillips County in the mid-1960s. The barriers of racial separation crumbled under demonstrations and legal challenges to white political rule.
A lawsuit was filed. Now that lawsuit went to the U.S. Supreme Court and brought about a change in the electoral process in West Helena. Lawsuits in the late 70s, but before it was resolved, it's about 83. We had a special election in April, and on that day, we made history in West Helena, Arkansas, in terms of 4 African Americans being elected to the West Helena City Council.
That didn't solve our problems because our problems had as much to do with attitude within each of the races, black and white, as it had to do with who our representatives were at the city council table.
But racial attitudes remain deeply entrenched within the community. To insulate their children from integration, some whites founded a private academy. This created a division, not only between the races, but also among whites themselves.
I was one of the leaders and founders of DeSoto School, which is a local private school. I think there were a lot of people that felt that the integration of the schools was going to deteriorate schools and that their children were not going to get, the white children were not going to get the education that they wanted them to have. I think some were concerned with the customs and habits, and I don't mean to generalize this, and the culture that existed in the black community. They didn't want their children exposed to it.
Their kids and grandkids is going to a segregated academy. They don't want their kids to get into the same swimming pool with black kids. They don't want their kids to sit in the same room with black kids. They don't want their kids going out socially with black kids. Their kids belong to private tennis courts and all of that. They don't want their kids to be around black people.
In the white community, there were those that just felt it was unchristian for us to do what we were doing at the time, that it was just, you know, blasphemy, so to speak.
When the schools were integrated, I think I was in the 4th grade, and it was wonderful the way my parents got behind that effort and really supported the school system. And there was a group of parents that did that.
I kept my children in the public schools. They had excellent education. One daughter went off and has now gotten her doctorate. I had another daughter, got her master's. I had a son that finished college. The problem was basically that as long as the schools were kind of like 50-50 white and black, everything was fine. As soon as it got over to the point it was less than 50% white, then the rest of them fled, and that's what happened.
Unfortunately, here we are faced with history. People can't seem to get over the history of the town and some of the history of the community that primarily were racial in nature.
Even though the once all-white West Helena City Council became racially balanced and a black mayor elected, racial division continued. But black and white citizens came together in protest when 5 members of the West Helena City Council took office without opposition, because they exploited a little-known change in the election law. Both Helena and West Helena then voted to consolidate into a single town with a new council representing all citizens.
City council members, the black leadership, the 5 of them who were elected without a vote, saw consolidation as a recall on them. And to a degree it was appropriate. They needed to go.
West Helena city government had just completely run amok. It really was devastating. You know, we had yet to be proven corruption in the school board. We had corruption in the city hall, and I mean, people were fed up.
In 2006, Mayor James Valley ran for re-election on a platform for municipal reform and racial harmony. To win, he would need significant support from the white community.
I think that the issue here in this second election is whether or not Mayor Valley has done a good enough job to deserve a 4-year term, and in my opinion, he has.
I think that the mayor has gone in absolutely the wrong direction in most everything he has done.
I just don't think that that Valley hasn't shown me any real leadership ability. The type of leadership the black community has brought to us over a long period of time, the white community is just not willing to accept. I mean, people that are either, well, not prepared for leadership roles is what it amounts to.
I don't think that the people who did not support James were doing it because he was African American. I think they really sincerely supported Joanne. We just felt, or I just felt, that she was not the best person at this time because she represented the old school, which I represent, my husband represents. Anybody who has been involved in the community in the past, I would consider probably old school, and I felt we needed to move forward. And the fact that James was African American and young, very capable, I thought that that was an opportunity for all of us.
Let's talk about the issues that affect this community, not whether the leadership is black or white. We got some real issues with which we need to deal. Our police department is understaffed, I think, and I've been out on the streets with the guys to all kinds of calls, to death scenes, to domestic occasions. I've been with the fire department on the various fire calls that they've had, whether it's car fire, grass fire, home, or business. I've been with the street and sanitation department. I've seen them. I've ridden in the garbage truck. I've operated the garbage trucks. I've picked up trash. I've cut grass. I've dug out ditches. I've done whatever needed to be done. And we got a lot of needs, more than we could ever raise enough money at one time to deal with, but we can slowly prioritize and get the city back into the shape that it used to be in and that most people would expect for it to be in. The best accomplishment has been the change of the environment in city government, that people are now trying to work together in ways that they hadn't before. You have less rancor among people in their public discourse. Not everybody is happy, but they're working on the common goals. It makes me proud to hear people say that we need to move forward. Not all of them are with me, but the moving forward together theme is my theme, and it just makes me proud to hear people talk about that.
There are signs of racial progress, and many are cautiously optimistic. But racism is not the only problem that Helena must overcome. Almost 40% of the community lives below the poverty line. The average per capita income is $12,500 a year, 1/3 the national average. Without a serious reduction in poverty, the town's recovery may not be possible.
Where we're driving through right now is one of the most impoverished areas of the United States. Phillips County, Arkansas is the poorest county in Arkansas. And the challenge has been, how do you lift people out of poverty?
Our poverty is predominantly African American and in a great disparity between black and white in our county.
In the Delta, we have a lot of poverty because we don't have the adequate employment.
And poverty depicts that every day, whether it's legal or illegal, every act you do is about survival.
What we need to do is work on those opportunities to help in a natural succession eliminate the poverty that exists. But a lot of it is going to depend on education.
But the question becomes, well, if we've always been in poverty down here in the Delta, what's different about poverty then and poverty now? I mean, when I was growing up, we would be walking to school. There were people all along the way, my little route to school, who would be saying, "Oh, you're going to school? Okay, you go to school and you listen to what that teacher says and you learn something." Everybody in the community was interested in kids getting a good education. I just don't see that now.
The parents are not there. You have parents that have to work outside of home, either one or two parents. It's just not there. The students are raising themselves. And we're losing a lot of kids because of this. They're into drugs. They're into the alcohol. They're into lots of things. And they have more problems now than we ever could imagine back then.
When you were a kid going to school, what kind of future did you hope for yourself?
Actually, I had sports in mind. I had sports in mind. Football, boxing, and all that. Whatever, whatever. I felt I did it all, pretty much.
But school, what do you feel about school when you were going to school?
I love school. That's why I'm able to rap. That's why I'm able to rap without using profanity.
So you go all the way through? You finished?
No, I didn't finish. I got caught up on the streets out here.
How'd you get caught up? Tell me about that.
I just failed, just failed.
But how does that happen?
How does it happen?
Yeah.
It's easy to fall. Following somebody else, being misled. Yeah, that's how that happened.
How old were you when that?
Oh, man, I started when I was about 12, 13 years old.
The churches, the community, the business people, the schools, we've all got to come together. We've all got to show the students that, okay, we're all going to work this together and this is what we want from you all. Then maybe we can get a hand on our students, because right now we just do not.
You need good schools to have a good community. And you need people who believe, even if the schools are not quite functioning like they ought to, that they can. And people have begun to believe that our school could not function.
We have no place sitting around that school board table if we're not there to benefit these children. And unfortunately, the element arose where you have people who came on under the guise of wanting to do the best for the district, but their motives were not pure. They were strictly political and self-serving. And here we are today with the state of Arkansas having come in and the Department of Ed taking over our district last year. So.
Parent, I'm saying to you tonight, we need you to come and see about your children. Get involved in your children's education.
Also, if indeed we do have parental involvement and we do have cooperation between the school and the home, there is no reason why our children will not be successful. We are interested in being #1 again. Helena, West Helena will be #1. That means that all of our stars that are running around in these streets.
That's right.
Huh?
That's
You hear me?
right.
I said they're running around in the streets,
That's
people.
right. That's right.
Some of your smartest kids are in the streets. Now, parents, we need you to bring them home.
It's hard for the young youth out here. That's why most of our black people locked up and stuff like that, because there's not nothing to do out here. So they do what they know to do. That's rob, shoot, kill, steal, sell drugs. To me, I feel like, you know what I'm saying, they ain't teaching us what they supposed to be teaching. They teach us little simple stuff. Like, we on the lower level when they supposed to teach us, like, everything, everybody else.
This is from the Arkansas Department of Education. This is combined for all Phillips County schools, and this measures the proficiency in math and literacy at each grade level. In 4th grade, about half our kids are reading at the correct level. By 6th grade, it's plummeted to 17% and 14%. Only a fifth of the students are where they should be in literacy and math. This is from 2004, again, across the whole county. And part of that, our graduation rate is only 64%. We're losing 36% of the students. And of those who stick around and go to college, a full 80%, nearly 80% of them need remediation once they get to college. They're not ready to take those college-level courses.
Education is a major key to victory in the war against poverty. And many teachers are in the front lines of the battle. For those students on the verge of choosing the streets over the classroom, the alternative school may be the educational institution of last resort.
People told me that this was going to be the most challenging experience in my life, and I said, I'm signing up. That's exactly what I want. And that's their marketing ploy. They want to get people who think they can handle anything. I came here the first month. I was very quickly humbled. There's nothing more humbling than standing in front of a group of people, and you've been successful all your life. I went to Harvard undergraduate, so it's obviously a place that humility is not necessarily, it's a virtue, but not necessarily something people practice. So I was like, I went to Harvard and I studied in England. I was like, I can do this, right? And that's sort of raw ideals, and that's like, this place needs teachers, it needs people who will be with the kids every day. And I came here, and the first day, somebody said, go back to China. And another one said, ching chong. And the kids will test you. They have wonderful, kind hearts, but they will test you. So my first month here, I was pretty miserable. And it was the first time that I really felt like I had failed at anything. I felt so unsuccessful. I felt like I was naive, that I didn't know how to reach kids, that I couldn't reach people who had so many emotional issues, whether it be self-esteem, neglect, just this pervasive sense of failure. And I felt like, how can I convince these kids that they are worth loving, that they can truly be somebody in their lives? And then I just sort of plowed through it each day, and now I'm here, and I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. All of my kids know what it's like to be on the outskirts. They know what it's like to be labeled, to be belittled. We all want to think about our lives, right?
My family has been through tougher times
tougher things than the big breakfast fight. I remember when my sister got pregnant in the middle of her 11th grade. When my parents found out, they were upset and worried that she wouldn't go to college. Other tough things my family went through were when my parents found out I was smoking, when my uncle died, when my cousin went to prison, and when I retained in the 8th grade.
The most fundamental thing is just to make sure these kids feel cared for. And it's that simple. And when you can do that, you can do anything with kids.
The last school I was at, Miller, junior high, but it was all right, but it was just like the teachers. They wouldn't care if I did the work or if I did the work. And most of the time, that's how it was. But here at Stars, Miss Quo, she makes sure I do my work every day. And then she call home when you absent and just make sure you always get your extra work, extra credit, homework. None of that happened at Miller. That's why I flunked. That's why I don't think I'll never flunk here at Stars, because Ms. Quo, she cares so much.
What can you tell yourself to keep yourself from going on the streets?
I just think about all the stuff I've been through with my dad and how it's so hard for me and him to relate. And I can't just see my father as a figure, because, like I say, he ain't no lawyer. He a convicted drug dealer, so I just think about all the hard times that I have, try to accomplish something new in life. Now he just don't be there as much as he should to listen to me all the time. So.
When you say he's not there, do you mean he's not like in the house, or he's just not really listening
He's
to
here,
you?
he just not really listening. You know.
He's there, he's not.
Like he don't really just be caring what I be talking about. He care. He always asks me about what I'm gonna be in life and what I like doing. But he don't ever work with me on nothing or nothing like that. He helped me fix on the lawnmower and the go-kart. That's about all we do.
You've never told him this?
I tell him, but he don't really care. It's something he care, but not as much as, you know, like I say, he should. Only thing I see that matters is I got him, so I work with him. I work what I got.
And you are going to walk. I sort of imagined that by the time I got these kids in 11th grade, that they would have been, you know, I'd assumed the worst about their schooling and their environment. And I guess I just assumed they would just be pretty much dulled and dumbed down and just sort of not intellectually curious, not excited about school, not have good work habits. Into the chart. Does that make sense? Yeah. I've been amazed at how smart some of my kids are. And I'm embarrassed to admit that I'm surprised by that. I told them at the beginning of the year that there's 3 things you need to know about this course. That number 1, we work hard. Number 2, there is a payoff for you working hard. You know, you will succeed and get smarter. And number 3, I'm going to love you to death. But I'm going to love you like your grandma loves you. Like the person who asks about school and how you're doing and wants the best for you and the best for your life. And in service of that, I'm going to expect great things of you, and I'm going to hold you to high standards, and I'm going to get on your case when you don't do your homework. And I just want you to expect that. And the reason I'm doing that is not because I dislike you or I hate you. It's the opposite.
My job is to educate kids. This I take serious. I tell my students this all the time because I mean it. I'm not here because of the money. The money does not keep a teacher in a classroom, and I want them to understand that, first of all. I was going to teach this year. Now, do I get frustrated? Yes. There are some things I get frustrated with. But life frustrates me sometimes, so you just have to learn to deal with it. And that's what I'm trying to teach my children also. Not just math, but how to deal with life when you don't get everything that you think you should. There's some that almost have this, at a 9th grade stage, this beaten down attitude that, I don't know, I've just been getting by. Why can't you let me get by? And I just refuse to let them accept the getting by, because life does not allow you to get by. And I've probably seen that more in the last 2 years. And I don't know where that giving up attitude has come from. And I'm finding it difficult to break that giving up attitude with some of them.
We have great kids, wonderful kids. We have great teachers. You know, we have the whole spectrum of both. But we have this big hump of kids who are much lower than they should be, whose literacy could be so much better, whose math, who are not even coming to school anymore. It's not just the culture of the Delta, but it's the culture of our town, of the young people, of them relative to their school. Here in 7th grade, 1 in 20 7th graders, these are 12 and 13-year-olds, have either fathered a child or been pregnant themselves. By the time you get to the 12th grade, this is from 2001, 2002, you can see up there, the statistic is 1 in 5.
Sometimes I sit back and I kind of wish that I didn't have children, because I felt like, you know, by this time I would be the nurse that I wanted to be, or I would be writing some type of article. I could be a journalist if I chose to pursue that.
I've caught up with some of my classmates that have 3 kids. I have a 6-month-old. They have 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, you know, and are pregnant now. It's horrible, you know. I don't regret having a kid, but, you know, I wonder, you know, sometimes what had happened if we had, you know, things to go do, you know.
My response to it is to dig in where my expertise is. So I and some other Teach for America teachers and local community members who are interested, we're starting a Boys and Girls Club. You know, for us, that's the way to tackle it head on. So what is a Boys and Girls Club? A Boys and Girls Club first is a place. It's a safe, wholesome place that is open daily during the most dangerous and influential time in a child's life, from 3 p.m. when they get out of school, when they would otherwise be unattended, as we spoke about before, until 8 p.m. It was very important to us to make sure that, that when we came out to the community about our intentions to start a Boys and Girls Club, that it was going to be a project that would succeed. We had learned that you know, the people of this community have been very disappointed by promises that had been unfulfilled. Boys and Girls Clubs have led to a decrease in teen pregnancy of 50%. They have decreased school absence by 87%, increased school, increased homework completion by 81%. They've increased overall GPA by 15%, decreased drug activity by 22%, and juvenile crime as a whole by 13%. In January of 2006, we kind of launched our Blitz, and it came out in January, announced our intentions in the newspaper, civic clubs, churches, and, you know, just really beat the bushes everywhere we could. The grand finale was Delta Idol. It was a banquet and youth talent showcase.
Never know how much I love you.
The community came out in force. You know, we got $50,000 contributions, $70,000 contributions from local businesses. Individuals gave, you know, gifts of $1,000, $5,000, $10,000, and so on. And even, you know, individuals gave $50 and $100 to the point where we were able to raise over $250,000. And then, having accomplished all that, I don't know, maybe that made us more attractive to the Walton Foundation. And just recently, they came through and have chosen to support us for $240,000 over 3 years. So it's really been astounding that in the 10 months or 11 months now since we've announced, we've raised over $500,000 or $750,000 if you include the building. And, you know, hopefully some more will be coming soon to renovate the building. So my dream is that the Boys and Girls Club will provide this safe, positive place so that there's continuity in the life of our students, where there's positive messages and a sense of progress. So, you know, and of course we hope that people will come to believe in this community again.
Our State Department called and said, we've got some people with the National KIPP Foundation that would like to tour the Delta. They want to come through the Delta and go to 5 or 6 towns and see if perhaps they'd want to put a school in one of those. So we got about 30 people together at the college to talk to the National KIPP people, and we convinced them that this is where they needed to be, and They didn't go to any of the other communities in the Delta.
KIPP School was founded by some Teach for America teachers some years ago. I believe Houston was their first program. They're bringing in an idealism and an enthusiasm and a vigor that we need here.
KIPP usually goes to areas which are economically depressed. They don't have a lot of academic results. School systems are struggling. So they looked around Arkansas and thought, well, maybe this model could work in the communities of Helena, West Helena. If you're serious about your child getting an education, if you're serious about your child going to college, this is the place. It will be tough. There's a lot of work involved. We will ask them to stay after school if their work's not done. There's tough love involved.
I think that the love here is great. The kids, they're more apt to learn, mainly because the teachers are more apt to give them the necessary teaching that they need. Think about it, a teacher staying till 7 or 8 o'clock at night and not getting paid a dime extra.
What do we have to do? What we have to do? Nah, not enough hands, not enough hands. What do we have to do? Morgan.
Change centimeters to change 4 centimeters to millimeters.
Give her a hand. Nah, give her a hand.
And that's where I was teaching in Pine Bluff, Arkansas, where I graduated from University of Arkansas. Taught there for 3 years and still had the dream of coming back to Helena. The dream actually came from me coming from a poor community and basically just seeing people not having much of anything. And I knew that there could be a better way for young people like myself when I was growing up in that age. And I just knew that things could be better. That's what made me, decide to, it was actually 8th grade when I really just made up my mind and said, hey, I want to come back to this community whenever I go to college and graduate and do some great things.
People ask if we're successful, and I say not yet, because our mission is to send kids to college. So we have signs that we will be successful, increased test scores, new building, kids learning, kids enjoying school. But college is the goal. College is the mission.
Our mission is to say to the citizens of Phillips County, the citizens of our 5-county service area, that you don't have to conform to the world in which you have been placed. You don't have to conform to a world of poverty. You don't have to conform to a world of low expectations. You don't have to conform to a world of racism. You can be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And our role as a community college is to convince people that transformation is possible and to help them in that transformation. The public schools have become almost entirely African American. The private schools are almost entirely white. So for most of our students, this is the first time that they've ever engaged in education in an environment that even approaches an integrated environment.
My ambitions for school, being in a small town and coming from poverty, you want more than that. My parents had always instilled in me to do whatever you want to do besides nothing. And that's basically what I took to heart, and I'm definitely doing that, doing something great. I see what poverty does, and I see what people that are uneducated are tend to do. It's higher crime, and people just don't care, and I just don't want to do that. I don't want to be that.
We did some focus group meetings, and we did old and young, we did black and white, we did high school students, we did all kinds of folks, and we mixed them up a little bit. And if you took the results and threw them in the air and let them land on the floor and picked up all the results, you really couldn't tell which focus group was which, because what people said is, we want a safe place to live. We want a place where we can have jobs. We want a place where our children can have jobs. We want a good education. It doesn't matter whether you're black and white. You want the same basic things for your life and the lives of your children. The only group that you could clearly see was different was the high school students. And that was probably the most depressing focus group we had, because what they said to a T is, as soon as we graduate, we're out of here. Every one of them, 40 or 50 kids, black and white. They all wanted to leave. And we've got to change that. We've got to make it so that our high school students want to stay, and that if they stay, there's a real job, not just a menial job, but a job with a career. Hope is, I think, our biggest accomplishment so far. I'm really proud of what has been done here, but we're so early into it. We have to avoid the optimism. We really haven't gotten where we need to be yet, and so there's a lot of hard work ahead.
Hilltown, Hilltown. We ready for war, bringing them dangerous toys. Hilltown soldiers, like I told you, watch how quick I will fold you. 4-5 Glock on the scene, trip the infrared beam. Smith & Wesson study stressing, teach a brother a lesson. Lethal weapon in the yard, hand to hand come back. It's a fact that we leave your haters flat on your back. Fire and brimstone, what we breathe in these Hilltown streets. Wickedness and poverty, I make my enemies bleed. No remorse, no surrender, no retreat at all. It's the law deep down in Arkansas. I say we raw, I say we slaw, and when we coming through your town, it's a pack of wild hogs, and we in Hilltown, Hilltown, Hilltown.
Delta Dreams is available on DVD for $29.95, including shipping and handling. To order, call 1-800-662-2386 or order online at aetn.org.